third graders, we're ready to get started on this week's art project. I hope you're as excited as I am. This week we're going to be doing a still life, which means we're drawing an inanimate object with our own observations to bring it to life. The materials we're going to need is a pencil, some colored pencils. You can even use crayons if you don't have colored pencils, they work just fine. So the subject of our still life is going to be something a little unusual. It's going to be some vegetables. So I have a tomato here, a pepper, and some scallion, some green onions. So if we notice our tomato, you can pick up your vegetables and examine them a little bit closely. My tomato is rounded, looks like a circle. My pepper is more like a triangle, and my green onions are long and skinny with circle bottoms. So I'm looking for the shapes in my object so that when I draw it, it makes it a little easier for me to draw. So arrange them the way that you like and then begin by drawing a basic shape. I'm just drawing it very simple. I'm not going too hard onto my paper, just drawing the shapes that I see so I have an outline of my objects. Once you have your outline, you can go back and erase the lines that don't belong there, like the circles where my onions were. They don't have a line cutting through them. You can also go back and darken the places where you think your vegetables should stop. So we're looking at this project and we're noticing the shadows of our project, right? There's some under the tomato, under the pepper, and over by the green onions. There's also highlights, which is the brightest part, right? So at the top of our green onions, on the pepper, and on the tomato, there is some very bright spots. They almost look white. So I'm not going to do anything else to my sketch. I'm just going to start to color. You want to select a variation of shades for your vegetable. So my tomato is red, but I'm using a light red, a regular red, some deeper mahogany colors to build that dimension and depth for my still life. So I'm going to start by coloring my tomato in the lightest section, which is at the top of the tomato. I'm using the lightest orange. So I know that the shadows start about halfway through, so I can just color that whole piece pretty solid. Bottom half is going to have to be a deeper red since it is where the shadow starts to come. If we notice, there's a lot of shadows where it's a darker red. So I'm going to take this dark red and start to color those shadows in. There's also some detailing within the top of my tomato that I can go back and go over my lightest section and add those details where I still see some extra shadows. The darkest part of my tomato should have the darkest red being used. So I'm just going to fill in that whole section using this dark red. And I can always go back and deepen my colors just in case if they look a little bit too light. Now that I've finished my tomato, I'm going to work on my pepper, which is the same process. I'm looking for the lightest section of my pepper first, which is actually that piece that goes straight down the middle. And then I'm looking at the shadows, which go on either side, so that I can use a darker green on those spots. So the first color I'm taking is this light green. I'm going to start to fill in all of those spots that I saw in the middle with the lightest color that I see, so that light green. Then I'm going to go in with a medium green and just kind of go over those sections so I have a little bit of transition. And then I'm going to take my dark green and fill out the rest of my chili. Now I want to blend out these pieces a little bit more, so I'm going to take my medium green and start to go over, again, my lightest sections just to give it some transition. And then I'm using my dark green for the outsides to make it really bright. I can also work on the stem. And there's our chili. The last thing is our onions, which are a little bit more complicated because they have 3 colors kind of working through them. They have a light yellow, a brown, and a different shades of green. So what I'm going to do is start with my light yellow pieces, which are close to where the bulbs are, where the bottom of my onion is. So I'm just going to shade those parts. I'm going to take a brown and feather it through just to deepen it. Again, I'm going to use my yellow to color the top parts. And the majority of my green onions are green because that is in their name. So I'm going to take that light green and start to color those white spots where the green should be. Now these green onions, since I just got them from the store, they have a blue band on them, a rubber band to hold them together, so I'm going to also color that. I can also deepen the shadows that I see at the bottom of my buds and use a brown. Now for the scallion part, or the longer part of my green onion, what I'm going to do is a combination of 3 greens, right? A light green, an olive green, and a dark green. So my light green goes in the lightest places that I see. I just pop that color in. And then my olive green goes in the medium tones that I see. Some of these parts of my green onion need to be peeled off, so that's going to be my olive green. And then my dark green goes at the very bottom where that shadow is casted, and in all the white spots that I forgot to color in. Once I've finished all of my shading, I made it a little darker so that it popped more. I can take a brown and start to add just a couple small details, like separating my onions and also separating some of the green scallions at the very top. This shading helps you to develop more three-dimensional shapes on your project, especially when you are practicing your still lifes. The point of the still life is to capture all the colors, shadows, and highlights inside of our object so that they come to life on the page. If we're just using one color for our still life, then it's not going to pop like we want it to. So we really want to make sure that we are working hard on developing this skill by practicing and blending out the colors. I hope you enjoyed the video, 3rd grade. I know it's a challenging topic, but I'm confident in your ability to work through the frustrations. Have a beautiful rest of your day and happy creating.